Who would have thought that a good little girl like you could destroy my beautiful wickedness? This is Rebooty and the Beast, a podcast in 2 parts. I'm Matt Molinaro.
And I'm Ann Burke. In the first episode, we review an original piece of media, and in episode 2, we discuss the reboot. And this is the original, and I'm so surprised with the quote that you picked.
Are you?
I am. I thought for sure you were going to pick, there's literally hundreds of quotes you could have chosen from. Hundreds. And that one wouldn't have even registered to me to choose from.
Wow, I would have done the whole ending. I would have done her whole thing from You Cursed Brat.
I'm melting. Oh, man. Well, in case you don't know that quote, we're doing The Wizard of Oz.
The Wizard of Oz, the OG from 1939.
Wow, was it really 39?
Isn't that nuts?
It really is. I was going to guess the 50s.
Yeah, impressive in many ways.
In many. And I'm just going to say off the bat, this is a movie that there's just something about it that disagrees with my soul. And for that reason, I might be a little extra sassy about it this episode.
I don't know what planet you emerged from. I don't understand how.
Okay, you know Ren and Stimpy, the cartoon, which I realize is a strange comparison, but you know the cartoon.
Yes.
Ren and Stimpy, for some reason, is a cartoon that always just makes me feel yucky while I'm watching it.
Oh, sure.
And I think it's something about, I know it's gross and all of that, but there's something about, the animation style and the colors and all of that just doesn't agree with me. And the colors in this movie do the same thing to me. So I feel yucky watching it. And that's not to say it's not, a piece, like a cinematic masterpiece that deserves all the credit it has gotten. It just doesn't work for me.
Wow.
So anyway, here we are. I think the last time I watched this, and I think another reason why I'm not a big fan of this movie is we had to sing the songs in choir in high school, every single year. And so I think I just got really fucking tired of the songs. And in fact, while I was watching this, frequently fast forwarded through the songs.
Oh my gosh. I have had to sing the same exact rendition of Over the Rainbow in choir class, I think 5 years straight.
Oh yeah.
The same exact version. And it used to make me have a bad taste in my mouth for that song. I'd hear, and then if you watched early American Idol days, it was one of the audition songs that was most used for years.
Oh yeah.
I was just sick of it, but now I love it again. It's all I'm here for it all over again in the past few years. I will loved Wizard of Oz. Spoiler alert.
All right. I will say, even though I don't love most of the songs in this movie, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, there's a version by a singer named Eva Cassidy that is, you know it?
Yes.
Beautiful. Probably the best version of the song, I think.
Without a doubt, agree. Anything by Eva Cassidy is so
sad that she died so young.
Good. Her version of Fields of Gold, Sting
Amazing.
has been is better than my own, he said.
Oh, I thought you were going to say better than yours. And I was like, well, Matthew, she's Eva Cassidy.
I don't even particularly like the song Fields of Gold by Sting, but by her, it's so beautiful. Her version of Songbird, she had a voice like no other. What a loss.
I know. What a loss.
Emotional.
Anyway.
Taking me on a sentimental journey.
You're welcome. Well, we start off The Wizard of Oz. I feel like, who doesn't know the plot of this movie?
Oh, well, let's hear what IMDb has to say about the plot of this movie.
Yes, go for it. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Here we go. Perfect segue. So, IMDb's summary. Young Dorothy Gale and her dog Toto are swept away by a tornado from their Kansas farm to the magical land of Oz and embark on a quest with 3 new friends to see the wizard who can return her to her home and fulfill the others' wishes. That's a lot.
I mean, it's
the whole movie.
It's accurate, though.
Yeah. Do you know that the original book is from 1900?
I did not know that, but I remember, despite not being a fan of The Wizard of Oz, I read some of the, I think, Return to Oz books. There's for some reason one that kind of sticks out in my head of like a sawhorse is on the front cover.
That's probably the original Return to Oz, the second book in
Okay.
the Oz series.
Okay. I remember reading that. I don't know if there are more books than that.
I've only read the first two ever, and very, very young. So I remember the Sawhorse. That is in the second book. And if you've
Okay.
ever seen Return to Oz, which, by the way, when the second part of Wicked comes out, I'm making you watch Return to Oz, because we're going to do that. I don't care what you say.
Oh my God. Okay, yeah. So, listeners, our current plan is The Wizard of Oz, then The Wiz, and then Wicked. And so, what you're telling me now is that we are going to have to do another return to Oz, if you will, for Return to Oz and Wicked Part 2.
At least, yes, because we're going to do Wicked Part 2, and I feel like it's only fair to do Return to Oz, and I actually feel like of all the Oz things that are out there,
Yeah.
you would probably like that one the most.
Well, that one stars like Veruca Balk or whatever her name is from The Craft, right?
I think so.
Maybe I'm Feruza Balk. is
Yes,
the
that's her name.
Yeah.
I can't pronounce her name, but it's the girl from The Craft, and it's got a couple of iconic people in it, I feel like, and it's kind of dark. It starts out
Yeah.
with Dorothy. Yeah, Dorothy in a like home for the like mentally unwell because her aunt and uncle don't believe her story about Oz.
Oh my God,
So
that's
it's
dark.
Yeah, it's got a totally different kind of vibe to it. It's cool.
Okay. And you've seen it before?
Yeah, it's like one of those ones that was on TV a lot growing up. Like the old Beauty and the Beast made for TV, strange, uncanny valley version.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's got different characters, but it's kind of like it's supposed to be her going back to Oz, and it's nothing like she remembers. It's in peril, and they need her help. It's like
Yeah, I remember when I finished watching this movie over the weekend, I then went on Wikipedia and read about it, and remember reading that the Return to Oz was actually seen as a much more faithful adaptation of the original book,
Oh,
but
that makes
was
sense.
not like particularly well received.
I think it's one of those cult classics. It's got to be.
Yeah.
I watched a trailer for it with Davey the other day, and I was like, "We're gonna watch this."
Oh my God. Okay.
Anyhow, yeah. I mean, I think everybody knows the main cast here is
Now,
who could you say besides Judy Garland is synonymous with the Wizard of Oz?
oh, no one. I mean, it's her. Okay, but before we get into the cast and the movie, the plot of the movie, I do have one more question. So the next thing we're watching is The Wiz, which was a musical adaptation of this movie that then got made into a movie. So it's a movie based on the musical, based on the movie, kind of like Mean Girls.
It is a movie based on the musical, which was adapted from the movie. Yes,
Based on the book.
based on the
Okay.
book. And then when we get to The Wiz, okay, and how about this? When we get to Wicked,
Wait.
that
Okay.
okay, Wicked is a movie based on the musical, which
Yes.
is based on a novel that began a series that is based on both the book and movie, The Wizard of Oz.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. I'm willing to entertain it. I mean, I'm already here for the first one, and that's the only one I've ever been exposed to. So at least the other ones will be new experiences for me.
I have a prediction.
Okay.
Wicked is Disney, right?
I think so.
Okay, I can't remember.
Isn't
if they're
everything
involved or
Disney
not
at this
somehow,
point?
But I feel like they have to be. Okay, so if Wicked is Disney, which I think it is, they're gonna probably explore the shit out of the Oz verse and like make a million things off of it now.
Okay.
Because when I was also looking this up and saw that the book was from 1900, the original one, which blew my mind.
Oh my God. I think I know what you're going to say.
First of all, there's 14 books in the original Wizard of Oz series, which
Yes.
I read that in short, the man who wrote the books was L.F. Baum or something.
That sounds right.
He wrote 14 books as the like historian of Oz, and then when he passed away, the title of historian of Oz was passed along from him by the publishing house and his like wife or something to someone else who wrote many more books, and then so on and so forth until there were 40 Oz books that are canon.
Wow, that's wild.
So if that's true, and there's like characters throughout Oz that I read that are like not explored at all in movies. Like I heard that there's a character called Princess Ozma who's like credited by many like what do you call it? Literary like researchers as maybe the possible first transgender character in a children's book or book.
Oh wow.
From like
okay.
the early 1900s. Or first like example of it. I read a lot of, there's so much to read on it. So I was like, okay, if there's enough for me to read on this, and Wicked did as well as it did, and I saw it already. I mean, obviously we're doing this.
Don't say anything. Don't say anything.
No. But I think with it doing as well as it did, and it coming out with a part 2, if that does as well as this one did, they're gonna make tons of money if they just make show after show on Disney Plus.
Yeah. Now, okay. So, but again, our plan for right now is Wizard of Oz, The Wiz, and Wicked.
Yes.
Part 1. Okay.
And then we'll move on to something new.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, this movie, Judy Garland is, as we know, the star of this movie, and there's almost more trivia and of all the movies in history, I feel like this is one of the ones that has like the myth of like a curse attached to it, and like everybody, like people died and you can see things in the movie and all that kind of rumor and stuff. There's just something about this movie that for all of its like charm and vibrant colors and beauty and childlike wonder, there's like a real darkness attached to this movie.
I agree.
And
it's got a lot of lore attached to it, you know?
Yeah, and I think that really contributes to its kind of cult status.
Totally. I remember when I was little, all the lore existed about it. Like, you know, the alleged stuff you see in the background, and all of the people who got sick and hurt on the set. Crazy things.
Yeah, totally wild.
Are you still there?
I'm still here.
Oh, sorry.
Are you there?
Yeah, my thing cut out for a second.
Okay.
Speaking of the trivia and speaking of the beginning of the movie and Dorothy, I read that she had to wear a corset that like bound her to make her look younger through the whole filming of the movie.
Yeah, I read something that they like bound her chest so that like her breasts weren't as like evident to everyone watching.
Yeah.
So that she looked younger. I also read that they put her on like weight loss pills and things like that to keep her thin, but that they made her kind of like loopy, and there were times where she like couldn't stop giggling and the director like slapped her in the face.
Oh my god. Yeah, I've heard of things like that too, especially the drugs and stuff that they put her on.
Yeah.
Terrible. She was so young. She was like she was a teenager.
I was just going to ask, how old was she when she was filming this? Because I didn't look that up.
I believe she was 16, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So like still developing, and they're doing this kind of stuff too.
Now I have to say she has charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent for days. Like I don't think the character of Dorothy doesn't really have a lot of depth to it, but she is so magnetic on screen. It's kind of astonishing.
100%. It's like if another person was doing this, it could have been like the whiniest character of all time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or the most dull. And it was just so alive with her.
Yeah.
Like you really are with her on this journey, even when she's being unreasonable.
Yes, agreed. And even when it's just like, even in black and white, and you just sort of like, or the sepia tone or whatever of the world of Kansas before Oz, like she just has such a star quality about her. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
Now, this movie starts off with Judy. I'm probably going to mess up and call her Dorothy and Judy throughout, but she's like overwhelmed and running away because mean Mrs. Gulch hit Toto with a rake.
With a rake? That's out of control.
That's out of control, especially for a dog that size.
Tiny.
Tiny little dog. By the way, that dog was cute as hell.
I will say, when Elmira, by the way, the name Elmira Gulch,
Amazing.
amazing. When Elmira Gulch arrives at the house and says that the dog is literally in her yard like once or twice a week, that's a lot. That is a lot.
That is a lot. I would probably be kind of annoyed at that too.
Yeah, so like I was like, okay, as a dog owner, I would never let my dogs in someone's yard off leash or any of that nonsense. But even me, loving dogs, that would drive me nuts. But I'm not going to hit it with a rake.
Exactly.
Oh gosh.
I did. Okay. So I feel like we can kind of do the plot in like broad strokes since it's so well known and kind of like touch on little elements as we go along. Does that sound good to you?
Yeah, because there's a lot of little cute things that happen that I love.
Okay. Number one is I had forgotten. It's been so long since I've seen this that I had forgotten that the farm hands end up being the Tin Man, the Scarecrow, and the Lion. Like I forgot that element until I like heard one of their voices, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that like everyone from her life in Kansas ends up in like showing up in Oz.
Yeah, I loved that because I loved seeing all the little details of what they acted like before she goes away that like, you know, show up in their characterizations later on.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah,
little
definitely.
things like that. And I thought like it's a really clever thing for even such an old movie that like was taking a chance at the time with, you know, if
Yeah.
people would like, catch on to put in all these like little details like the guy who becomes the lion being like easily frightened and the the little like absent-minded nature of the whatchamacallit
The Scarecrow
scarecrow.
guy.
I love things
Yeah.
like that. And the physical
Yeah,
comedy
I
and the
agree.
physicality of these characters, especially the scarecrow, is so impressive to me.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. The Scarecrow's physical comedy was really excellent.
Yeah, that was Ray Bolger.
Okay. Of course, there's the I have to point out and just celebrate my love for one thing, which is the music for the Wicked Witch. The minute Mrs. Gulch starts bicycling up to the farm,
Oh my god, yes. I love it. Loved it.
there have been back when we used to have individualized ringtones for people. There have been people in my life who have had the Wicked Witch of the West ringtone.
For those people I used to have dun 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 dun.
Oh gosh, yes.
Oh, that's
but
hilarious.
she's-
I love that.
I was kind of like gagged that she was there to like take Toto to the sheriff and like have him put down basically because she claims that Toto bit her.
Yeah.
I forgot that part of the story.
Me too. I was like, that's really extreme. Really extreme. And I was shocked that like it was obviously it's a traumatic scene and Dorothy's losing her mind, rightfully so. But I was shocked that ultimately they were like, okay, I mean, the law is the law. We got to give her the dog.
I would have punched Miss Gulch in the face and ran away just like Dorothy wanted to.
100%. I could not believe that. And when she's honestly, I was getting emotional when she was like taking the dog away. I was like, that would be the end. Could you imagine? Me and Davey looked at each other and we were like, never in a million years would that dog get in that basket ever.
I know. Thankfully, Toto escapes from the basket and Dorothy runs away with him.
Mm-hmm.
And doesn't get very far before she kind of like runs across a man with like who looks to be part of like a traveling circus type thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And is immediately was like, can I travel with you? Which I was like, Dorothy, you just met a stranger in the woods and you're like, can I travel with you?
Yeah, she runs into the guy. It's literally a rundown circus cart with the name Professor Marvel on it. It's clearly
Yes.
over the top ridiculous. And she just gets into the stranger's vehicle. Hello. Okay, this is bad news for children watching. She just...
Yes.
Guy's like, do you want to go look at my crystal ball inside the vehicle? And she's like, oh, yes, absolutely, very much so.
Yeah. If any children are listening to this, never do what Dorothy does and get into a Carnival Man's little trailer.
No. Oh, by the way, you forgot to mention, and I wanted to ask you this time around, what did you think of Somewhere Over the Rainbow? Were you emotional? Did you cry? Did you tear up, or did you fast forward?
I fast forwarded.
How disgusting.
I'm sorry. I told you I don't like these songs.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'll talk about this also when they go to Oz, but I think it's worth mentioning now as well. The physical sets are great.
Oh, this is something I will say. Okay, again, as much as I don't like this movie, I do have a lot of positive things to say about it. And I think all of the practical effects, all of the sets, it's so, even when it's cheesy, I would rather watch a movie that's cheesy like that than a movie with a bunch of like CGI.
100%. I appreciate a blend that we could do, that a lot of
Yes.
movies do these days, but way heavier on the prosthetics and the physical, like actual pieces of set. Like the way they built out Kansas, obviously there's a lot of, you could totally tell where like, you know, the set ends.
Yes.
Not Truman Show, it is not. But I loved that. I loved that because you could see all the, even where you could see like the line of where the floor meets the backdrop. You could see
Yes.
all the work that went into trying to disguise it. And it's so
Yes.
successful that if you're not paying attention, it would totally not even matter to you. It's like, I was so impressed. The tornado, when we get to the tornado, I'll tell you a piece of like trivia about that I thought was cool. But so many
Okay.
of the little effects. And you know what I was thinking? We
What?
saw, what was it? Not War of the Worlds. Clash of the Titans was our first episode.
Yes, it was.
That was in the 80s, I think. And
Yes.
the effects in this were better.
I agree. They were much better.
1939.
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to
Maybe it was
point
a
out, 'cause
budget
I really
thing? I don't
loved
know.
the sets a lot.
Yeah, I agree. So he tries to kind of trick her into telling her she needs to go home to be with her aunt. She runs away, and as she's heading back to home, a tornado strikes Kansas, and she gets kind of like swept away, as we know, and the house goes spinning into the sky while everybody else is in the storm cellar. So what's your trivia about the tornado?
The tornado, they did like a lot of different things to make it, but the version of this that I watched had like a little before and after you could watch where it told you little practical
Oh.
effects and stuff.
Okay.
Which if you watch it on HBO Max, you can see that as well. It's pretty short. But I forgot I think it was muslin they used. It was like 30
Yes.
feet of muslin, and then they blasted it. They made like a funnel out of it, and then they just blasted it with air and like fine dust and things to create the tornado effect.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it was like a
was
physical
pretty good.
thing that they had there.
Yeah.
And I remember
mean-
thinking when we watched it just now, or just this week, it looked great.
It did. I wonder if do you think Twister or Twisters applied the same technique?
We'll talk about it when we do those, because we'll definitely have to do those. And
Yes.
speaking of Twister and Twisters, I'm glad you brought that up. When Dorothy's up in the tornado, like you said, in the cyclone, which, by the way, I love how she's like in the cyclone and she's like, oh no, we must be in the cyclone. Like, I wouldn't be like, there would be poop on the floor.
I would just be screaming,
The end. I would be there. Okay, but anyway, she has all the stuff like that you see out the window that flies by, which
Yes.
I loved, because you see all the typical stuff. And of course you see Elmira Gulch on her bike, which turns in, and you hear that iconic music as she turns into the witch flying with that cape, which is just so iconic.
Yes.
But I wanted to ask, you see the cow from the farm flying up in the tornado for a second.
Yes.
And that's like a thing you see in all different things, and you see it in Twister, iconically.
yes.
Is this where it started, do you think?
I have to imagine yes, but I feel like it probably is like one of those like pieces of folklore, maybe, of like, because like tornado areas of the country that get hit by
Farms.
tornadoes are often farming areas.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just like a piece of folklore from that area that ended up getting into media somehow.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I was just like,
I don't know.
I bet you this is like a big part of where, because we see how media like affects cultural understanding of things, and
Yes.
I just
I
loved
will
that.
say, once the house lands and Dorothy walks out into Oz, the way they did the transition from black and white to color was very effective.
Totally. And it's like, when Technicolor was the big thing, so it's like super,
Yes.
super vibrant color, like you mentioned. It has a little
Yes.
bit of like a sickeningly sweet flavor to it.
Yes.
And it also has the kind of, I could see what you're saying, the bad feelings, because if this was watched on mute with like the right kind of music, it would be kind of creepy.
I mean, there probably is somebody who on YouTube has created like the horror edit for The Wizard of Oz, I bet.
Yeah, like it's got a dark vibe. I could see it. It's got that sort of
Yeah.
old school, sickly sweet color vibe to it. But I absolutely loved this beautiful Technicolor Oz, vibrant,
Yeah.
gorgeous. Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore. Almost was the lead off.
That was the quote that I thought you would pick.
It was close. It was in the running.
Sorry.
Oh, love it.
So this is when Glinda comes down
In the
a
bubble.
bubble, which I feel like I want to scream into the mic that she came down in a freaking bubble, bro, which is one of my favorite videos on the internet. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just Google like bubble bro.
I love that
on
video.
YouTube. It's so amazing.
Since childhood, this was like one of my favorite parts. Glinda in the bubble and Glinda. I mean, this could have been my gay awakening right here.
I was kind of surprised that Glinda wasn't Auntie M.
Oh, well, because this is, yeah, I wonder why they did the characters from Oz being the people in real life, because I think, they're not being consistent whether Oz is a real place or not
Yeah.
in this,
Yeah.
Maybe they're skirting the line, but yeah, that is interesting.
So she immediately, this is what's so funny to me is Glinda immediately is like, look, are you a good witch or a bad witch? You dropped a house on the old Wicked Witch of the East. We see the ruby slippers poking out from two, I will say, very fake looking legs. And she basically is like, you're a witch now because you dropped a house on her, right? That's basically what she says to her.
I think it's because in this movie, Munchkin Land, where they are, all of the Munchkins are little-sized people, little people. And I read that they were like a troupe of performers from overseas that were all hired for this movie to perform it, and that most of them didn't speak English and were dubbed in later, except for two of them. Only two of them actually spoke their actual lines, which I thought was really interesting.
Interesting.
But I think because Dorothy is like, 5'8", like the same size as Glinda, she presumes that if she's in Munchkin Land and she looks the way she does, she must be
A witch.
a witch. And who else would have the power to do this? And maybe she thinks she did it deliberately,
Yeah. Now, I will say it's kind of hilarious that she murders somebody and immediately gets a parade for killing someone.
Yes, a parade and this beautiful, everyone's singing about the witch being dead, and obviously Ding Dong the witch is dead. But they're all celebrating in the streets. I love that while this whole scene is going on, and most of the scenes Glinda's in, she watches on with this sort of manic glee, but dead look on her eyes.
Yeah, she's very just beatific and there to observe and not
disturbing.
really. It is a little bit.
I kind of love it.
Amazing gown, beautiful gown.
Beautiful gown, beautiful everything. I loved the bubble. I loved it growing up. I wanted to travel in a bubble.
Yes.
I love the sass that she asked her if she's a good or bad witch. Says that only bad witches are ugly. And Dorothy's like, wow.
Yeah.
What, you calling me ugly?
Stereotype much?
Yeah, and that also, I love that they think she fell from a star. I love the Ding Dong the Witch is Dead song. You probably fast forwarded right through it, but
I fast forwarded like my life depended on it when it came to the Munchkin song, because what I really truly, I don't know. What's funny is when people talk about podcasting, they always talk about how hard it is to listen to their own voice. Mm-hmm. And yes, that's something that I feel like it takes a minute to get over. But what drives me truly wild is when voices are pitched up or pitched down. And so the Munchkin songs are pitched up, and it is, it makes my skin crawl to listen to it.
The fact that you have the disrespect for not only the Lullaby League and the Lollipop Guild, but also the coroner who gives that beautiful autopsy song.
I don't even remember the autopsy song because I was like, oh, the Munchkins are still singing. Skip, skip, skip. Oh, they're still singing. Skip, skip, skip.
It's a delight. It's a real delight that we get to hear about, the witch truly being absolutely, positively dead, while Glinda watches in delight and baby Munchkins hatch from eggs. I really enjoy it. But of course, the party is ruined when, in a huge, beautiful cloud of red smoke, which is how I want to appear into rooms if I'm not using the bubble, the Wicked Witch appears.
Dream. Which, okay, I read something that she was the second Wicked Witch, that there was somebody else who was going to be the witch but had to cancel last minute. I'm pretty sure that's what I read.
I can't imagine anyone doing it better than her. This was Margaret Hamilton, I think?
Something like that.
I read it that she had a lot of trouble with her career after this, getting roles because of being typecast.
Yeah.
Many of her scenes were cut from the movie because they were deemed too scary. And so she probably had so much more to show.
Yeah.
That just never made it. I remember this piece of trivia that she was in an episode of Sesame Street later on as the Wicked Witch. And the episode for years was banned afterward.
I bet, because she was too scary.
She was too scary for the kids, and parents called and complained. And it's not until recently that it started airing again.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and like they had to like put a disclaimer up that she was going to be in it or something. That was too scary.
Well, she wants Dorothy's ruby shoes, of course, and this is where we get one of my favorite lines, which if I had been opening the episode, I would have said, "Now be gone before somebody drops a house on you too."
I love that. I love this whole scene because here's a fun fact for you. In the books, their slippers are not ruby red, they are silver.
Oh.
And they only made them red for the movie because they wanted to show off Technicolor colors. So I
think that was a good choice.
Yeah. So that's why they're even red in the first place. So the iconic ruby red slippers are never red in any of the other Oz stuff. And the whole thing is like, I love the way the witch's feet curl up when the shoes come off.
Yes.
But I love that, like, Glinda is like, "Oh, aren't you forgetting the ruby slippers?" And sends the Wicked Witch to go get them over there, only to, like, be like, "Nah, gotcha." It's just, like,
so
disappear.
petty. Okay. I do have a question about Wizard of Oz lore at this point, which is the movie Wicked. Is Elphaba one of these two witches that either the house fell on her or she's the other one?
Yes, and this is not a spoiler. I think most people who have seen any promotional stuff, Elphaba is the Wicked Witch of the West.
Okay, so the one we see in the movie.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, and is Ariana Grande Glinda?
Yes.
Okay, so they were friends at some point.
According to Wicked, they knew each other in high school and
or whatever.
Okay. Beyond.
Okay. All right, that's enough for me to know.
Yeah, that's kind of how it starts. It's like, how do you know each other?
So basically, I'm in this scene. I'm looking at Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. So she has to go see the wizard who is going to send her home. And this is where we kind of get, honestly, Matt, we get the same scene kind of 3 different times.
Yes, it's kind of like a little chorus in the middle. You know, it's a reprise to We're Off to See the Wizard, the Wonderful Wizard of Oz. It's a continuation, and it's okay. It's okay.
Oh,
we're going on a journey. We're following the yellow brick road. We're follow.
Terrible.
Okay, so I'll get you My Pretty Little Dog 2, Smoke and Fire Away, Yellow Brick Road, to go see the Wizard of Oz in the Emerald City. He'll grant you whatever you want.
I do have a question.
Yes.
The songs in this movie were written for this movie, correct?
I believe so. Yes.
I think that is correct, yeah, because I remember there were other songs that were also sort of like jazzier that ended up getting cut from the movie. Okay, so never mind. Okay, so she
now
meets the Scarecrow.
Yes, yeah.
He has no brain. This is my least favorite song in the movie.
If I Only Had a Brain?
If I Only Had a Brain. Yes, I hate it. I can't stand it.
I like the line when he says he has no brain, and Dorothy's like, "Well, you know, how are you talking?" And he goes, "Some people without brains do an awful lot of talking, don't they?"
I did like that. That was a good line.
And she saves him, she unties him, and it's the same one of the farmhands that we saw before.
Yes.
But of course,
great physical comedy.
Great physical comedy. And the prosthetics. I believe he's one of the ones that got sick from them, but
I think he had permanent facial damage from his.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah. They were great.
And then they run into the Tin Man, who has no heart.
If I only had a heart. And I loved his physical comedy. Should not be overlooked either. I mean, He was in a harder costume, I think, probably to move around, and did just as much the whole time as the Scarecrow did.
I agree.
Because I liked how even when they're just walking around and just doing regular things, if you watch, the Scarecrow keeps like falling and having to be picked up, and the Tin Man is constantly like getting rusty here and there. I love that kind of stuff. Like, to have to be in it for the whole movie like that has to be applauded, I have to say.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, another thing
then
throughout all of the
go ahead.
sets. Do you notice all the exotic birds all over the effing place?
No, I didn't.
There's like toucans in the trees everywhere, big, huge cranes, like flamingo type looking birds everywhere. I don't know who they got in touch with or where they got all these birds, but there are like the most exotic birds you'll ever see in your life all over the place.
Like real ones?
Yeah.
Oh,
just wandering all over the set. There's so many animals, especially
I never
birds.
noticed that. Huh.
And I think that's where I think that's where the rumor about seeing someone die by suicide comes from, is the shadows you see in the background of the set after they, I think, leave this scene that we were just talking about with this, with the oil can and all that. You see, now you can't see anything. It just looks like a bird stretching its wings and flapping around in the background. But people for years were like, oh, that's one of the people on set.
Munchkins.
Either someone who worked there or one of the Munchkins who decided to die by suicide, and it made it on the final cut.
Yeah.
That was like the thing everyone talked about all the time growing up.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
I mean, everyone was going back on their VHS and like ruining it.
Oh, totally. 100%. So then they get to the forest, which is dark and creepy, but they run across the Cowardly Lion, who I will say his physicality when he was first introduced was really, really good.
Yes.
And a really great costume, which I was like, wow, what a good costume. And then I found out it was actually made from lion skin. And I was like, well, that would explain why it looks so convincing.
Yikes. I did not know that. Ooh.
Yeah, it was like a real lion. And then my second thought was, oh my God, that must have been so hot to be inside of. He was basically wearing a like floor-length fur coat the entire time they were filming.
I do believe there was like heat stroke type things going on with him. And we know that the green color on the witch and the silver paint on the Tin Man got them both sick. That it like irreversible damage forever.
Yeah, the lion, because of his facial prosthetics, he could only drink milkshakes or like something else through a straw. And so eventually he got so sick during filming that they had to like guarantee him a lunch break where they would take his face makeup off and then put it back on in the afternoon.
I don't have that same face prosthetic, but I also can only drink milkshakes.
I know I'm not making fun of his suffering, because I'm sure for weeks on end, if all you could eat was milkshakes, it would be terrible. But also, as I was reading that, I was like, oh, it sounds really good.
Do you like his song, If I Only Had the Noive?
I sure don't.
How about this? Do you like when Dorothy smacks him in the face?
I do like that, yes.
I knew you'd like that.
Oh my God. Okay, so they continue to set off together. And then the Wicked Witch casts a spell to put them to sleep in a field of poppies.
Poppy.
And we get a glimpse of her flying monkeys attendants,
which are great.
Totally.
I love the flying monkeys. I read that many of them got injured because they were flying on like wires that got crossed and they would fall.
Oh my God.
Not great.
No.
But they looked great.
I will say, okay, so when they fall asleep in the poison field of poppies, everything looks lost, but Glinda sends apparently snow that wakes them up, and so everything's fine. But I read that the snow that they used on the field of poppies was asbestos.
Oh! Sounds about right.
Right? I was like, Jesus, they were honestly doing everything they could to kill everybody in this movie, I feel like.
And here's I wonder, did the snow wake them up because it was cold, or because it covered the poison in the air and stopped it from
I don't know.
them inhaling it? Because
I mean,
the Tin Man and the Scarecrow they're sentient or whatever, so they didn't fall asleep. Couldn't they have just dragged them out of the poppy field since they weren't going to fall asleep anyway?
Heavy.
I guess
they
the
tried
lion
to
was
pick
too
up
heavy.
Dorothy. Yeah.
Okay, but I loved that scene. I love the poppy field scene. I remember as a kid I was so scared for them. And I was like, Dorothy, why are you just standing there?
Honestly,
get the hell out of here.
I will say the views of Emerald City are great. I love how it looks from a distance. It's so pretty.
I love me too. It reminds me of Neverending Story a little bit, which I hope they do a reboot of so we could do it on the show.
I was gonna say I don't think I've ever seen Neverending Story.
It's one of my favorites as a kid, but it reminds me of Fantasia, where they're going to in Neverending Story. So those of you out there who've seen it know. But I love when they get to the city and the guy's like, no.
When he says, read the sign, bell out of order, please knock, even though the bell worked.
Yes.
So rude.
Oh, gosh.
But he lets her in to see the wizard because she's got the ruby slippers on. And we get kind of an inside look of Emerald City.
With the horse of a different
my favorite
color.
part of this, that's my favorite part, is the horse of a different color, which, more trivia, did you know that they did that with Jell-O powder?
I didn't until I looked it up. I totally assumed they were like, oh, they picked a white horse and they did some kind of Technicolor wizardry on it.
No, I mean, it was a white horse, but they did it with Jell-O powder.
Jell-O powder. Yum.
That horse must have been really sticky.
That horse must have been really sticky and probably had a nice little sugar rush.
Yeah. I like the scene where they get there at the wash and brush up company.
Oh, okay. See, that's a little songy type moment, but that's fun. It's kind of like
It's
gets them all. I like the lion getting his little ribbon. It reminded me of Beauty and the Beast.
Yes. I was gonna say the same thing. I was wondering if if that inspired Beauty and the Beast.
It had to, right?
It must have, right?
I love that moment. That little. And the lion is just he really is really funny. The actor who played him, I love his whole shtick.
Yeah.
Can
we talk about the big threat to Emerald City that makes everybody panic is the Wicked Witch shows up and does some skywriting?
Oh my god. Okay, that moment I thought was so cool. I didn't remember it at all, but I was like, ooh. And by the way, she did that fast.
Very fast.
Surrender Dorothy. It started with and then it was Surrender Dorothy.
Yeah, it was very fast.
I did read a piece of trivia that it was supposed to say, the full line, which was cut, was Surrender Dorothy or die.
Ooh, so spooky.
Maybe that's why they got a little more scared.
Okay.
But they also did that that whole effect was done in a water thing. They did it under, like, in a water liquid tank with a, like, fake little miniature witch flying that they pulled on a string, and they had like ink jutting out of her, so they literally made that happen, like, in a little tank.
Wild.
Like, what was such a small detail that they did not need to do, but it was so effective.
Agreed.
I love the scene where now they're outside. So now, everyone's going crazy, and Dorothy and company are, like, outside of the Emerald City's, like, palace, which is, by the way, like, steps away from the front gate.
Yes.
And I just think, as the lion is doing If I Were his King of the Forest song, which, did you like it or hate it or fast forward it?
Fast forward.
Fast forwarded it. They literally wreck the entire front of the palace. They, like, break vases and make crowns out of them. They make the hugest mess ever of a place they were just told they can't go inside of.
Yeah.
Reckless. Out of control.
Yeah. Do you think that Oz was the inspiration for Zordon in the Power Rangers?
I mean, he looks really similar.
He does.
But a lot of
projection of a head.
Bad guys have... Yeah, that's true. A lot of bad guys have that shape of head, though, I feel like, for a while.
Yeah, true.
I don't know why.
So he says he'll grant Dorothy's wish and the wishes for, like, a head, a heart, a courage if they steal the witch's broomstick.
Which I would have been like, never mind. She's, like, literally throwing fireballs at us. She literally throws fireballs at them.
Literally does. I'd be like, I'm good. Thank you. But I did like when they get to the spooky forest because there's, like, animatronic owls and vultures. And it's so funny you brought up Clash of the Titans because I wrote down that they were giving me Bubo from Clash of the Titans vibes.
Yes, the owls were giving me Bubo, for sure. I loved the little animatronic vultures and owls. I was like, I love that they have real toucans, but then they have these, like, animatronic things in her forest.
Yes.
I also love when the trees come to life and throw apples. I know we passed that up, but...
Oh, yeah.
I always love that part of the movie for some reason.
So Dorothy gets kidnapped by flying monkeys.
Can we talk about something real quick about that?
Sure.
Did you notice that as... I don't know what happened here. Maybe we missed something. But so the flying monkeys come and they kidnap Dorothy, which is very scary growing up, by the way.
Yes.
All of a sudden, how do her friends have, like, these weapons?
Well, the Tin Man always had an axe.
But now there's a gun.
I totally missed the gun.
Davey
what are
had
you
to be
talking
like,
about?
"Is that a gun? There's a gun!" And the lie, I think the gun is being held by the scarecrow, and the lion has a spray can, like one of those huge, oversized, cartoony spray cans, and it says "witch removal spray" on it.
Oh my god, I completely missed that
Where the
somehow.
fuck did you get this shit?
That must have been stuff they got in Oz, and they had to edit out them getting the weapons or
The
something.
gun. I mean, they drop
That is
everything
so
when the
funny.
monkeys
Yeah.
Oh, when did they drop everything? Oh, when they take her and dismember the scarecrow. That's right. I'm sorry. I forgot.
Yes,
They
yeah.
get all that stuff and they're on their way. Then they take her and dismember the scarecrow
Correct.
and disembowel
yes.
him.
Yes. Here's a question I have for you. So when Dorothy is in the tower of the Wicked Witch, because the Wicked Witch is like, I'm going to kill you in 1 hour and take your shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And she like starts an hourglass that's like, this is how long you have to live. Is the implication that like Dorothy will automatically die when the hourglass runs out, or that the Wicked Witch will be back to kill her?
There's a big question here.
Okay.
Because I wrote this down too. So she has her and the dog, and she says she cannot get the slippers off her feet without killing her. Because she tries to, and the worst effects of the movie happen with yellow paint, yellow lines coming out of them. Like a headache commercial
Yes.
from the 1990s. But so she says she's going to kill her to get the shoes off, and she turns the timer over. And I thought, like you're saying, when that timer ends, like in most things like this, she's just going to die. And at first I wrote down, well, that was a handy item. Why didn't she just use that like instantly? If she had this like
Agreed. I was
hourglass
so
of doom.
confused.
But then, spoiler alert, well, when the actual hourglass is up, nothing actually happens.
Well, and I think, again, the implication is like they get her out of the room just as the hourglass is about to like run out. But like, I wonder if they had to edit out how Dorothy was going to die in order for it to make it past
Maybe
like,
that's some of the
censors for kid
scarier
movies.
Yeah, some of the scarier scenes that got edited out.
Yeah,
I
probably.
was wondering the same thing though, like what was actually going to happen with this hourglass? Because in the interim, while the hourglass is going, I just have to mention she cries into the orb. Because she
Yes.
sees Auntie M in it. She's like, "Oh, Auntie M. Oh, I wonder how you're doing." And she sees Auntie M like calling out to her in the orb, in like the crystal ball or whatever. And then the witch,
Yes.
the witch pops up. She's like, "Oh, Auntie M, Auntie M." It's one of my favorite
Yeah,
parts.
she's just being so petty to Dorothy.
I'll give you Auntie M.
Ugh, man.
Best part.
Okay, so
Toto saves the day, though.
There-
So Toto escapes here as well. He runs away past all the guards, and he guides her friends to Dorothy, and they have to scale a mountain, which I was like, okay.
yes,
Don't remember that at all.
no,
And then they watch on as these guards, like not the flying monkeys, but the guards, who I don't know why they're all green, but they're all green.
I don't know either. It was weird.
Yeah, they're doing the OEO yo ho song, just marching around outside. They're all green in this like very over the top pomp and circumstance outfit.
Yeah.
And then the scarecrow comes up with the plan. The scarecrow comes up
Yes,
with the
with
plan.
no brain. He comes
as
up with
he's
the
been
plan.
doing. And the lion is going to be the brave leader of the plan.
Yes.
And the Tin Man, by the way, has been emotional and crying through the whole movie. Just
Shtick.
pointing
Yeah.
it out.
I mean, this is the moment where we realize that the true victory is the friends we made along the way.
you are
Because
so beautiful. And Dorothy, well, for all, is going through her own same thing. Her thing is she wants to go home, and she left her house because she felt like, as the guy said at the beginning, that nobody understood her and nobody
Yes.
cared for her. And now she has found like a family of people who understand her and accept her for how she is and celebrate the things about her that made her different at home. And, she's found her own little version of home as well already, and she doesn't even realize it.
yeah.
And she has all these people caring for her and looking for her, which about
Yeah.
them sneaking in. I know it's just a movie and it's supposed to be funny, but I thought it was ridiculous that the lion is afraid of his tail sticking out the back of his uniform that he's hiding in.
Yes.
When the hat is barely covering his head.
Yes. But they rescue Dorothy before the hourglass runs out, and then
Cut a chandelier,
They kind of get
hitting a bunch of
Yes.
guards or monkeys, I think.
yes. the Wicked Witch corners them, and we get another famous line. How about a little fire, Scarecrow?
Yes. That was also almost at the
And-
beginning.
Yeah. And Dorothy throws water to save the
Extinguish.
Scarecrow, which
Yeah.
she didn't know was also going to kill the witch. So the witch melts, as we know, the famous "I'm melting."
Cursed brat. What a world. love that scene. Iconic.
Yeah.
And then all the guards, surprising to Dorothy and them, are like happy. They're like, "Hail, Dorothy! You killed her. You liquidated her."
Yeah.
And they're like, "All right, peace." And they bring the broomstick back to the wizard, who says, "Come back tomorrow."
Yes. So rude. But Toto, in his infinite wisdom, pulls back the curtain and reveals the man behind the curtain. Pay no attention. I thought that was another line that I thought might make it in.
Oh,
was,
yeah.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Another great one, which I love. Then you see
yeah.
the wizard is nothing more than like a little man who's the same Miss Professor Marvel guy that she saw at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, the forest pervert.
The forest pervert, who for his best intentions, all he did when she came inside of his white unmarked van was say, "Go home."
Yes.
But still, that doesn't kids.
Yeah. So they find out he's basically a fraud, and he's like, this is where we get the like life lesson of like, you thought of a plan. The only difference between you and smart people is they think. And so you thought, and so you're clearly very smart. He gives him a diploma, a doctorate of thinkology. He gives the lion
A medal.
a lecture. He gives him a medal of courage, and the Tin Man gets a little heart clock that ticks.
A testimonial,
So
which I thought was the corniest of them all.
I agree. I thought that was the stupidest one.
A testimonial, because he's trying to say like, "Oh, where I'm from in, America, here's what we give out. And universities give diplomas and heroes get medals. Okay, good deed doers get testimonials."
Yeah.
And it was a heart clock. The heart clock was cool, but I didn't see how it related to a testimonial either. But I did think, I know this is corny, but I actually think it's a great lesson, honestly. And I think it was illustrated really well. Because growing up, I thought it was so dumb that they got these corny-ass things that were completely useless. And I felt like, this is just further showing what a fraud he is, which it is. But he is highlighting the fact that this stuff is nonsense I'm giving you, but you already have the things that you think you are missing, and the things about you that you think are broken and missing have been there all along. And I think that's really nice.
Yeah, I agree.
Come on.
I think it's a good lesson for a children's movie.
And he's got some of those cute lines in there at the end, which people have heard, like which I don't know if I believe in completely, but they're sweet. The love you give is let's see, love is measured by how people love you versus how you love them, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Very sweet.
Something like that.
Very Hallmark pillow.
Yes.
Pillow on a mom's wall. And then for Dorothy, he says that, I'll take you home on this hot air balloon because I'm weird and I love hot air balloons, and that's how I got here, and I will take you there because I'm from Kansas. Surprise.
Yeah.
And she's like, great. But then in a freak accident, I don't know if Toto jumps off or something, I forget.
Toto chases a cat, and so they have to get off the balloon at the last minute.
Yeah, but he's already going, and
he's already going. So this is when Glinda appears and tells her to tap her heels 3 times and say there's no place like home.
Yes, and she does the very tearful goodbyes. I think I'll miss you most of all to the Scarecrow, and the other two are like, rude.
I know, I thought the same thing.
Davey
I was like,
always says that.
Damn.
And then she wakes up in black and white and sepia back home. Oh my gosh. And then we see, Aunt Em and Uncle, I forget. And
I have no idea what his name is.
Right? Isn't that crazy? It's Aunt Em, and everyone's like, and Uncle who? Let's see. Uncle Henry. Sorry, Henry.
Okay.
But she sees them and the 3 farmhands, who, by the way, their names, so rude, are Hunk, Zeke, and Hickory.
Yeah.
Come on. Are they? Anyway. But yeah, I thought, and then we see the wizard stops by to check on the little girl, which is like, okay, enough
Creepy.
involvement.
Yeah.
And there's no place like home.
Okay, however, the main conflict of the story of Mrs. Gulch was going to murder Toto is unresolved unless Miss Gulch died in the tornado.
I mean, we did see her in the air in the tornado. She'd have to be pretty powerful to survive that.
So we're just hoping that she's dead.
I guess we're just going to cross our fingers and hope she's dead. Because otherwise, Toto is going to be in constant... But Toto's like badass. Now watching back this movie, Toto did a lot.
He did a lot.
He escaped. He led them to Dorothy. He escaped in the first place and led Dorothy to safety from the tornado after she chased after him.
Matt, I just had a recovered memory of, have you seen that video of like the high school production of The Wizard of Oz where they used a real dog for Toto and you see Toto walking across the stage and then Toto fully falls off the stage?
No, but I'd love to.
Oh my God. I'll see if I can find it. The dog is fine. But it is so funny because it's just this, it looks exactly like Toto. So this dog is just like, doot, 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 whoop, and falls off the side of the stage like Trixie Mattel style.
Oh my God, I have to see it.
And that's The Wizard of Oz.
That's The Wizard of Oz. I'm scanning through for some other fun facts before we wrap it up.
Okay.
Let's see here.
So give me a chance to pull up our spreadsheet
so
I can take our notes of how we rated it.
Some things I just love about this movie, just the lore of the movie, is you've heard of the Friends of Dorothy?
Yes.
I didn't know anything about that until I read up about it after this movie, and I thought that was just a beautiful sort of like a cool kind of connection. I don't know if I'd say beautiful, but like just kind of a cool connection to possibly to the movie and its impact on like society and like terminology and things like that. Let's see. I don't know if this is true, but this comes from a Paula Poundstone stand-up comedy from back in the day.
Oh my God, Paula Poundstone. Wow.
I know, deep cuts. I actually have been watching some of her old stand-up comedy on YouTube lately, which is how this came up full circle. I don't know. But she has this thing she always says where she's like, I never care about reviews because she's like, do you know that when The Wizard of Oz came out, it was poorly reviewed? And I know it was not a big hit box office, but she said that reviewers said it was stupid and unimaginative. And she always says, what if it turns out Rambo 3 was really good? And they showed that every Easter. But
that's funny.
But yeah, isn't that crazy that this was viewed that way?
Yeah.
At that time, I feel like it was so ahead of it. Maybe that's the problem. I don't know. Maybe it was a little bit ahead of its time.
It ended up like, obviously, it's now like one of the movies that's considered like one of the greatest of all time and that kind of stuff. So it eventually earned its cred.
Yeah. I love this movie. It has so much impact on so many other things. I probably could look up a million different parts of trivia about this, but I'll keep it short. I just have to say, I loved it then. It's been many years since I've seen it, probably not as many as yours, but I loved it now. I loved it both.
Do you have the IMDb and Rotten Tomato ratings?
I do.
Okay.
IMDb is 8.1.
Wow, okay.
Mm-hmm. Rotten Tomatoes, tomato meter 98%.
Okay.
And audience meter 89%.
Okay.
So pretty high, pretty well liked. What about you?
Okay, well, here's my struggle. Am I rating? So when we reviewed the Beetlejuice cartoon, I said like it's not for me, and so I rated it like as if for the audience that I think it was intended for, which was children. I think this was intended as a family movie, so it could be for me, whatever. But I just don't like it. And so I want to rate it low, but I'm scared that people will be mad at me.
Ooh, you're going to get canceled.
I know. Am I going to get canceled for rating The Wizard of Oz low? No. I'm going to be real honest. I'm going to give it a 6.
Wow.
Which, for some reference, I gave the 2010 Karate Kid with Jaden Smith a 6.5.
That's disgusting. But that is your prerogative, as they say.
Thank you. Thank you for respecting my feelings at this time.
I love it. It's only going to make it more enjoyable when we have these opinions, because in the very wise words of Dr. Holly from Dance Moms, you're entitled to your wrong opinion.
Oh, God. One of my favorite things to say to people. What would you rate it?
What was my highest rating yet? I think it was 9.
You gave a 9.7 to Beetlejuice and a 9.2 to Beauty and the Beast.
I'm going to give this one I mean, it's great. I'm going to give it a 9.5. I'm going to just go for 9.5.
Okay, so still your top-rated movie is Beetlejuice.
Yeah, I think maybe it was because the time we were watching it too was like spooky season, and it was like I always cannot wait for Beetlejuice around that time of year. But yeah, I think this one is just magical. It just has that magical element. I think if it wasn't as magical and special to me, I would find some parts a little slow. I probably would not like. I generally don't like the baby voice, the fucked up baby voice. But in this I loved it because it's like the munchkins and stuff, so
yeah,
I have that part of it, so I'm aware of the annoying things about it, so that's why I'm gonna give it a little bit lower. Okay, and I would watch Beetlejuice anytime. This one would be like most of the time.
Obviously it's a beauty for you.
Oh, big time beauty. Are you gonna you give it a go.
Despite my rating, I'm still going to call it a beauty because I recognize that it is a phenomenal movie. It's just not for me.
Yeah. So what would you hope to see in the retellings? Because The Wiz is literally going to be same sort of timeline. It's just updated. Well, you'll see, but it's the same story-ish.
I would hope for different songs that are less gross, annoying, and stupid. That's probably what will get me canceled, is not my rating, but calling the songs gross, boring, and stupid. I mean, other than that, to be honest, like it's a little bit silly and it's not like there's not a lot of character depth. So I guess maybe like a little more character depth, if I could have that too, would be good. But I wouldn't change a whole lot other than the songs and some of the character depth.
Okay.
What about you?
I have seen The Wiz, but it's been probably, oh my god, the 90s since I've seen it. So I don't remember a ton about it, but I would want to see updated songs, obviously.
Okay.
I don't like scene for scene retellings in updates unless that's like really what they're going for and they make it magnificent. So I don't want that kind of vibe. I want different things. And like you said, a little bit more character depth to the characters. And yeah, can you a little bit more explanation? Because here's the thing with this movie that also gave it a little bit lower of a rating. What was the goal? Like you said, how was she going to kill Dorothy? What really was happening at the end? Were they really causing that much chaos? She's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
So a little bit more explanation. If you're going to make her that powerful, then why isn't she just literally burning them down?
Yeah, I agree. I think there's some question marks there that I'm curious about. But
yeah, I'm gonna bet that there are some songs from The Wiz that you've heard that you just don't even know are from The Wiz, and you're gonna be like, oh, okay,
probably.
Yeah,
and I know it stars like Whitney Houston and Michael Jackson, right?
Michael Jackson,
no,
and Diana Ross.
Okay.
I mean,
interesting.
There you go.
All right. Is Michael Jackson the Scarecrow?
He is.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Well, I'm curious. I've never seen it, and I don't know how it was received, so I'll be very curious to experience it next week.
Same. I'm looking forward to it.
All right.
Okay. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. By the way, everyone, did you know that our podcast is totally free? Of course you did. Here you are. So we have episodes every single week. You should absolutely subscribe, take advantage. It costs nothing to write a review, so do that as well. It helps us out a bunch.
That's right. And also, I know you have a lot of friends and they trust your excellent taste, so you should tell them to listen to our podcast, because that's the number one reason that somebody will listen to a podcast is when their friend tells them to.
And then you should get on social media. Find us at RebootyPod on Instagram. You can email us at rebootypod@gmail.com. We love getting emails from you. And, share our page on your story.
That's right. And we also have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/NandMatt. You get cool bonus episodes where we review other movies, ones that potentially are not rebooted, and play some fun games. So you should check that out.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for listening to Rebooty and the Beast.
We will see you next week with The Wiz.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.